Here we go, all astrology family. It is April 22nd. It is the new moon, which occurs tonight at 9:26 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I've gone ahead and I've drawn up a chart. This gives you guys a visual. I know there have been some people out there who were looking for more detailed information. So this is the website that I've talked about and that we have below every video is astro.com. All you gotta do is press on the links. I will do a video which will show all the steps it takes to get to here, right? To get to how you punch in a time and a date and how you do the labeling and how you draw up this type of chart or whatever chart it is you want. But this is the type of chart that I use when I'm looking at your chart when I do a reading. You know, if you're following along, it helps to be able to follow with the same visual that I'm looking at. And that's the only reason I recommend that. This particular chart is drawn up for the 25th of April. So this is going to be in a few days. And I wanted to take some time and talk about Pluto retrograde. Now, when a planet retrogrades, before the retrograde movement, or appearance, I should say, it stands still and it drills down. And we've talked about that tons of times, how Pluto is the rotor-rooter of the zodiac, right? It drills, drills, drills. And for whatever planet it is that's about to go retro, it intensifies in its power and its meaning. It becomes super obvious. So we've got Pluto right here, right? Here's the sign Capricorn. And there's Pluto right at 25 degrees, right? It hit 25 degrees and then it started retrograding. You see the little baby R, really hard to see. If we were to go down here to the bottom of the chart where you see the written graph, right? It's got all the signs, all the planets, all the degrees. And then here it does this little bar graph thing where it's got, you know, square is obviously a red square. Trine is a nice, pretty blue triangle. And then it shows all the planets. And this is, well, literally, this is an aspect grid because it shows how, okay, on this date, the 25th, we've got the sun squaring Jupiter, the sun squaring Saturn, okay? The moon trining Jupiter, the moon trining Saturn. So it gives you the breakdown on the side. And within this breakdown, you then have the actual detailed degrees and minutes. Now I went down here to show you this so that you could see the retrogrades, okay? Pluto, right? 2459, you round it up to 25, retrograde. Now, if I had done this chart for the previous day on the 24th of April, it would have showed Pluto at 2459, and that R would not have been there. It would have just been, there would be no R there. It would look like the rest of the planets, right? Typically are drawn to pay attention to things that are very personal. Venus, our sun, our Mercury, our Mars. These are very private, personal planets. And so we pay attention to those in our chart. And typically the longer, slower moving ones, Pluto, like these are considered generational things because they happen over a long period of time. They affect many people. Pluto at 25 degrees, bearing down in Capricorn, okay? Now, for this example chart, it's based on a time and a location, which is Chicago, Illinois, okay? So as far as the house locations, we're not going to pay attention to that. But for your own chart, yes, you are understanding that where Capricorn energy is in your chart, okay? Based on your birth time, your Capricorn energy is always going to be in the same location. What moves is the planets, okay? So I'm going to give you an example. On the new moon, which was the 22nd of April, Ceres was like at 29 degrees in Aquarian energy. Well, this chart's drawn up for the 25th of April, and if you look, Ceres is at 034 in Pisces, which is another one of the other things that I wanted to discuss in this video. Transiting means moving. Transiting Ceres from Aquarian energy to Pisces energy. Now, you might not have heard of Ceres. You may not be familiar with it. Ceres is something that I personally pay close attention to because I have many food sensitivities. And I found that if I pay attention to Ceres, which represents grain in your chart, food, grain, you'll see that it could be very significant if you have sensitivities, and especially if you have sensitivities and you're not sure what the heck they're tied to. If you start paying attention to Ceres, and when she squares certain things or trines certain things, you will then probably get a lot more information as far as your health and your vitality and how things affect you, especially grains, particularly wheat. But Ceres moving will be a factor because it was in Aquarius energy, and now what will it mean when it goes into the Piscean energy? So this is all going to be kind of interesting because we're dealing with the COVID-19, the quarantine, the lockdown. We're already experiencing food, in a sense, being rationed when we go into a store because there's only there's only a certain amount of items on a shelf, right? You go to the register or whatever, and there's a limit as to how many of these particular things you can buy, right? You can only buy 2 dozen eggs, right? There's certain limits. Some things aren't even available. So whether it's somebody labeling it as rationing or not, we want to pay attention to Ceres. And the fact that it's going into Pisces, and we understand what Piscean energy is, it becomes very blurred, okay? It becomes, it's not very tangible, okay? It becomes elusive. It's water, right? You can't, if I ask you to grab me a handful of water, right, and bring it to me, you can't do it. You really have to get it. You have to actually incorporate a cup or a bucket or a spoon. You have to have something of form, of structure to grab, to be able to grasp that water. And it's not a super slow planet, or aspect, I should say, or asteroid. What happens when it hits Neptune, okay? Neptune tends to dissolve the material and the physical in the 3D. Well, our grain is definitely 3D. Now, this isn't to freak people out. This is a preparation, all right? This is understanding energy, and this is understanding the cycles of how things move. Knowing that Ceres moves fast is good news, because when Ceres gets conjunct Neptune, well, I just said that can make things disappear. Well, if that's grain, you know, being under the influence of Neptune energy, is that going to disappear, right? Are we going to see a time, you know, when it's like, okay, I went to the store and I couldn't get this or this or this or this. Having a heads up to something like that would be valuable. Ceres will move and get to 12 degrees of Pisces, and then it will retrograde. And Ceres will retrograde back actually into the Aquarian energy all the way to 28 degrees, and then it starts to move forward again. Now, it gets back to 28 degrees Aquarian energy in October. So, in other words, right now, let's see, it begins its retrograde in July. So it gets to here, 12 degrees, and then it retrogrades. So it won't hit Neptune because it takes a retrograde and it goes all the way back. And then when we get to follow Ceres back to 28 degrees in October, it starts to move direct again. And yeah, this is 2020 that we're in. If I change a year, I'll let you know. So then we move. I'm following Ceres in the book. Ceres gets back to this point where it is today at 0 degrees Pisces. It gets back in November. I already have this date written down, actually. November's an interesting month. When I say interesting, that means there's going to be more changes that we're going to feel in our lives. But fascinating that Ceres enters Pisces again, and it's going to be around the 10th of November. We will see Ceres pairing up with the planet Neptune, because Neptune, during all of that Ceres stuff, Neptune itself took a retrograde. But Ceres then meets back up, Pisces in Neptune. Dates here, we're looking January, fascinating. We have an exact conjunction, January 2021, around the 20th. January 20th, you'll see Ceres conjunct Neptune. All right, so this is something to be mindful of, okay? Grains, I know we're already seeing shortages. Like if you're a baker, I'm hearing this from people I know who are bakers, professional bakers especially, where it's hard to get a lot of items. I've even seen people make posts on Facebook where they go into the store and it's like, what the hell, I can't find this, I can't find that. So flour, right, falls into the category of grains. Keeping this in mind and plan ahead. I'm not saying this means there will be nothing, because Ceres moves fast. This is a good thing. Ceres is going to hit exactly, like I said, on the 20th, and then it's going to keep moving, and it moves pretty quick. By time, well, maybe not fast enough in some people's eyes, but by the time Ceres gets to Aries energy, 0 degrees Aries, it happens in February, and it's February 22nd. Ceres will be at 0 degrees Arian energy. And again, Aries is cardinal, okay? When it hits the 0 degrees Aries mark, it is that cardinal access point. Because it's a 0 degrees cardinal point, it is a kicking off point, is a new beginning, especially because it's in Aries. It's, okay, let's do this, let's go, action, brand new, let's begin. And so it'd be fascinating to see what that looks like. Now, you can't really have much of a conversation without me going ahead and pulling up the chart of that time. But I just wanted to do a heads up in advance about that with this video. I can go into it at another time deeper, which means pulling up the actual whole chart for that time, because as usual, I would never want to make a statement unless you're paying attention to what all the other planets are doing, right? And what's the conversations that they're all having with one another. That is how you have a better understanding of what the essence of the overall energy will be for that time. So let's get back to Pluto. That is the main point of this video, is Pluto digging deep and going retrograde. Now, planets don't really go retrograde. This is not a video about that, but it is the appearance of the backward motion. And for the sake of trying to deliver information quickly, we say retrograde, we say going backward, because what happens is we have a feeling, an idea, we just have this overall impression that things aren't moving forward, that we're standing still. The 25th, right? That was the date that we have this pulled up for. This is a day, and likely if you're sensitive, you're feeling it definitely by the 24th, because before the retrograde movement happens, there's that drilling down. What area in your life is Pluto in? Okay, so if I were to go real quickly through all the signs, Aries energy, you're going to have Capricorn energy over in your 10th house. Okay, so for Aries people, this is in your 10th house. You've got Pluto bearing down. Yes, Jupiter's going to be there. There's something I have to make a quick mention about Jupiter before I go into the next sign. Jupiter energy can be very beneficial, can be very protective, can be like that guardian angel energy. It does expand things though, right? And when it's in Capricorn, Capricorn's ruler Saturn, and Saturn is all about setting rules and limitations. Saturn is the boss. Normally, Jupiter can spread its wings and protect us, but because it's in the Capricorn energy and Saturn literally outranks Jupiter. I mean, this is the easiest way to explain it. I can go into a whole bunch of other astrological explanations and some esoteric, ancient, read out of books. But for me, to talk about it in really a down-to-earth way, it's the easiest just to simply say Saturn outranks Jupiter. And it outranks Jupiter simply because it's a 2.5-year transit. And by the way, Pluto outranks all of them because it takes Pluto like 17 years to transit through a sign. The slower a planet is, the more powerful it is. Jupiter takes roughly about a year to go through a sign. Okay, so understanding the speed of how planets move, right, will tell you a lot about their power. And then it also gives me the ability, you know, as an astrologer, to look at a chart and to say, okay, I see Mars is here. Well, it's not going to be here long because I know it only is going to take Mars roughly like 40 days to get through a sign, roughly and typically. Later in the year, we're going to see Mars appear in Eris, and it'll take Mars 6 months to transit this sign. This happens in the last 6 months of 2020. Now remember, Aries energy is our body, okay? It is, I want to be physical with my body. It's physical movement. It's very impulsive. It's, I'm thinking about doing this and I'm doing it, because that's how Aries works. And it wants to be the first of doing something, okay? It likes to be ahead. It likes to be the leader. It is the, you know, the first one out of the gate. It's the Marine. Cultivating Aryan energy, which I think is what we're really all going to be learning if we haven't done that, the latter part of 2020, becoming the fine wine of the Aryan energy. And what does that mean, the fine wine? It means after it's aged for a while, right? It's learned to be less impulsive. It's learned to think more, to think things through, to think in layers, to not be so impulsive and impatient, to not act on the first thing you feel, right? To not act on, ooh, it's shiny, I gotta have it, but to think it through, right? To really consider consequences, to consider repercussions, to consider how is that going to look in the long term, because Pluto is the ruler of 2020. Pluto, really, folks, if you know a lot about Pluto, if you follow Pluto in your chart, and because this is the slower energy, this is the big picture energy, all right? It is the slowest of them all. Following Pluto, Pluto is about change, but it's deep transformational change. When Pluto comes through and makes a change, it's a permanent change. Just remember that, letter P. It's powerful, it's Pluto, permanent, okay? If you make yourself more adaptable, more willing to be less fixed on that which you value, and I'm saying this because Uranus is in Taurus for the next 5 years. You guys have heard me talk about this. Uranian energy entered the sign of our what we value, what we love 2 years ago, okay? Aries, this is your 10th house, which is your highest hopes, goals, and ambition, your unique accomplishments in the world. Think about that. You're going to be, that's changing, okay? So be flexible. The good news is that It's all in Earth, and Uranus is in Earth, thank God. Imagine how disruptive this would be if Uranus was in Aries while we had this going on with this. I mean, we already kind of experienced that, but Uranus can be very disruptive, and thankfully it's in Earth energy, okay? And that's a good thing, and I'm trying to focus on all the good stuff I can because we're all in so much flux. So if you're a Taurus energy, your Capricorn is typically going to be placed in your 9th house. Okay. Again, if you aren't sure about something or if it doesn't make sense, it's because it's your birth time and your chart may be a little bit different as far as your rising. And that's fine. Just comment below. I am more than happy to look into that for you and to be clear, like, okay, where does this happen? If you're new, please comment your birth digits. And we would love to be able to pull up a chart for you. And that way you can ask questions when you're watching a video at any time. And I can quickly go ahead and have an answer for you and give you some clarity, okay? And that's what this channel is about, helping each of us to evolve, but not just individually, but as a group. And so this is our growth, going through this as a unit. This is what the future work is about. This is what Aquarian energy is about. So if we go to the next sign, Gemini, your Capricorn, where your Pluto is bearing down, where you're going to be going through your Pluto retrograde, and your changes that are going to be permanent. Now recognize that when I say these changes are going to be permanent, it doesn't mean that during this retrograde period, okay, it doesn't mean that once December comes around that all of a sudden whatever, when Pluto starts going direct again, like, okay, that's it. No, we have to stay flexible because Pluto will not be done until 2024, right? Once Pluto hits 2024, it'll finally, for the first time, reach a 0 degrees Aquarius mark. And it's not until Pluto gets its feet firmly planted in the Aquarian energy that I will be confidently saying, okay, folks, wherever this is now for you, whatever's going on in your life, that this Capricorn area of structures is not going to be changed any longer, okay? It's now going to be our thinking and our communicating, our innovative way of being, and thinking more along humanitarian lines that are going to then be going through Plutonian changes. But this area of your life will be done with the transformations. Again, that's 4 years away. So you're being asked to stay flexible. Okay, this is important. I skipped right over that Taurus energy. I did say the 9th house, but what is the 9th house? The 9th house is your belief systems. It's your beliefs. It's how you think about work. It's how you think about long-standing structures. It's how you think about your highest goals, hopes, and ambitions. Okay, it's your beliefs in those things. It is your thoughts and your beliefs about long-distance journeys, because that also is the 9th house. It's our long-distance traveling. It's our religion. It's our philosophy on life, right? The 9th house is all about higher learning, higher education. Do you want to go and take more classes? How do you feel about learning more? Well, you would love it. Right? You've got Capricorn there. You'd feel like, okay, I want to keep on climbing. I want to keep on learning, okay? This is a really nice placement. This would be a person who would be open to learning more, but who, if they're not careful, would have to be watchful of not talking down others so that you look like you know more than other people. This would be important for this placement. If you have planets there, which we all do by transit, but if you have something there personally in your chart, this would be something you're dealing with. This would be something that you have to focus on. So for Gemini, again, this is your 8th house. This is shared resources, okay? This is how you share your energy, right? This would be someone you're married to possibly, or business partnerships. This could also be inheritances, right? People who you get money through insurance policies and stuff like that. This is definitely, though, how you structurally share your energy. All right, this is for Gemini, Ascendant Gemini risings. Pluto bearing down, some of those issues might come up in the next few days, okay, the 24th, 25th, 26th, just because Pluto is very strong at that point. And here's how you know if this is going to be a big deal. You would know if you have something squaring it. And so I say this all the time, but this is a visual for you guys. What is a square 90 degrees away? So cardinal energies, cardinal squares cardinal, 90 degrees away, a quick way, 30, 60, 90. If you have anything in Aries energy at 25 degrees, 30, 60, 90. If you have anything over here in cardinal, right, in Libra energy at 25 degrees, then that's a square. Okay, it squares it, you see? Bam, bam. Now, what this chart shows you is by transit, we have Eris squaring it. You see Eris at 24 degrees, right? Eris is that divine feminine voice that was never being heard before, And all of a sudden, like the year of 2019, the year of 2020, we are hearing feminine voices in ways that we've never heard before, right? Really standing up. And this is why. This is Eris. Eris is, in the Aryan energy of my body, right? How my body's been treated, how my body's been viewed, right? All of that is happening here, okay? And it's going to continue, right? You see, 25, 24. Eris isn't going away. For those who are sick of it, well, get used to it because it's not going away. This is meant to be done, meant to be dealt with, meant to be acknowledged and recognized. Is Aryan energy is very masculine. Its ruler is Mars, okay? And so Eris being here is saying, but I have a female part, right? I'm not just all masculine. I have a female part of me, and I need to be heard. I've been covered up. I need to be acknowledged and recognized. And so we're going to continue to see this little story play out of how the feminine parts of who we are, the feminine degrees of our being, are being challenged by the structures, the old structures, right? Because this is traditional structures, Capricorn energy. And Pluto's coming through, making changes, okay? Now, when I talked about that whole Jupiter thing and not having Jupiter's beautiful, beneficial energy with us, I think this is important, not to be a downer, but to be realistic. I'm not going to make a point to pull Pluto into this, okay? If you get a benefit that includes Earth, right? Because that's where we have a grand Earth trine, right? It's if you have something natally over there in Virgo, like at 24, 25, 26 degrees, or in Taurus, 24, 25, 26 degrees. It won't be because of Jupiter. It'll be because you already have something in those other signs that are lining up. And you know who you are because you're here we are, right? A lot of folks have not been working, right? A lot of folks, they still have a job, but their jobs have changed, okay? But they still have an income, okay? So a lot of people have actually been very, I want to use the word protected, but it just comes down to they have things, prominent angles or planets at 24, 25, 26 degrees in the earth signs. And so those are the ones who are still employed. Even though the jobs may change, they're still getting an income. Okay, if you're a Cancer Ascendant, Cancer rising, this is going to happen in your 7th house, okay, which is your significant one-on-one relationships, transforming, changing, and will continue to transform and change. I know it's fascinating to look at this because remember back in December and January, we had like this mega stellium. We had like 6 planets here, and we don't have that now, right? All we see is Pluto and Jupiter, and this is Pallas Athena, right, by the way. Pallas Athena is the female general. She is a strategist. She is intelligent, highly intellectual. She's a planner. And I love the fact that she is part of this, that she's at 2930 here. And this is pretty fascinating. 2930 is where she's located. 29 degrees is a critical degree. So we want to understand, this is probably a reason why I'm doing this video, because we've got Pallas Athena at 29 degrees, right? And if she's a planner, she has to be willing to look at a map and to look at the future. Well, this is a map, right? This is your frequency grid of your life, of the galactic energies that we're all taking a peek at. This is fascinating because this 29 degree in Capricorn, cardinal energy, okay? It is, see what it's doing? If you look over there, what else is over in cardinal energy at the latter degrees? You've got Mercury at 25, 26 degrees. So we've got Pallas Athena and Jupiter actually squaring Mercury energy, okay? And a square means I'm challenging the way you think. That's what that means, okay? This is, I can think long term. I don't mind looking at the details, okay? I have the ability to look at a map. I have ability to look at foundationally sound ideas. But Aryan energy, right? Because Mercury's in Aries. Aryan energy is more like, I think, pretty surfacey. I don't think through details. I rush what I'm thinking. I may rush what I'm saying. So this challenge, right? Not all squares are bad, and this is that time. This is not a bad square. I like this square. Now let's not forget Pluto. Pluto and Mercury are squaring, right? And this is also a good thing because other than Pallas Athena challenging Mercury, Pluto is also challenging Mercury. And you can probably, I don't know if you can see the book. No, you can't. Anyway, planets in transit, planets in aspect. Robert Hand, if you were to read his definition for Mercury squaring Pluto, he explains that this is actually really beneficial because Mercury has the ability to look at details. And even though Mercury is in Aries energy, it's like Mercury just needs a reminder and she gets it. Mercury gets the reminder from Pluto, hey, pay attention to all the little stuff. You're kind of going off half-cocked. You are not talking about all of the information. You're rushing, right? Arian energy, you're rushing. And so Pluto says, slow down and think it through first. And because it's in Arian energy, Pluto, right? Remember, Pluto will dominate this aspect, this square. Pluto's the stronger because it's slower moving. Pluto will actually take this Mercury energy by the hand and say, you know what, I want you to think this through. And Mercury will say, you're right. You're right. I was being a little impulsive. I wasn't thinking it through all the way, which is wonderful. This is a benefit for us at this time. This is a great benefit. So where's that happening in your life, right? Where are you experiencing Pluto square Mercury? Where are you experiencing, you'll really feel it when Pluto stands still, which the retrograde's the 26th or the 25th. So on the 24th, this is when this challenge will likely be the greatest because Pluto's bearing down. Pluto's digging deeper. And it's good because it forces Mercury to dig deeper and to be more self-reflective because it's Aries, self-reflective on who I am, on my body. And depending upon what area of your chart that's in, that's going to be a factor. So for Cancer ascendants, like this is your 10th house. So it could, it's talking about who I am in regards to my goals and my ambitions. Your Capricorn energy for Cancer, Ascendant Cancer rising, again, is in your 7th house. And so challenged by significant one-on-one partnerships. There may be people who represent this Plutonian energy and who challenge your ambitions and your goals. And it's not to say I'm challenging you like you can't do it, but I'm just challenging you to think it through a little bit deeper. Would be Leo ascendant, Leo rising. And so for the Leo energy, you're going to take a look and find your Capricorn. And typically that's in your house of health. It's going to be in your 6th house, right? For Leo ascendant, Leo risings. Hard workers, right? Everybody knows that. If you got planets there, it's like you overwork. You're extremely responsible. You're the bosses. You definitely are this. You can be the CEOs. And that's what you're striving to be, right? It's your highest hope, goal, and ambition. Not just to be the worker, but to be the boss. You're great employees because you follow the rules. Just got to be careful not to step on people's toes and stuff or climb on top of somebody else to get ahead. But where's this challenge coming? Okay, so for you guys, this challenge would be happening in your 9th house, which is your beliefs. Okay, your beliefs about yourself. Mercury is being challenged by Pluto and saying, I want you to think a little bit deeper. I want you to think a little bit longer about your beliefs. Okay, and these opinions, right? A negative aspect would be becoming very opinionated and be very self-centered when it comes to thinking, because that's where your Arian energy rests. So much of your beliefs about yourself, the goal is to take it to the opposite side in any energy, right? And that would be to go to the Libran side, okay? And your Libran energy will help you out to be more balanced, to be more fair, not to be so self-centered in communicating, because that would be your 3rd house, is at your opposite. Now, if I were to go to the Virgo ascendant, Virgo rising folks, we're going to look for where Pluto is bearing down and being challenged by your Mercurian energy. And Pluto, of course, 25 degrees is going to happen in your 5th house. This is where you're having a good time, right? That's 5th house, fun. That's the easy way to remember it. 5th house is fun and creativity. It's also being physically active, having a fun time with your body. That's why they refer to this house also as the house of romance, right? Having a good time with somebody else with your body, dating, mating, relating, and all that. It's also your children, though, okay? Having very structured ideas about fun, right? You make a plan and you like to literally pull out the calendar. You make advance, it should be very structured. It shouldn't just be all willy-nilly. So it might not seem super creative in a way because you like structured fun. You're going to have very structured activities with children. Be a great placement, someone who teaches children, right? Structured activities, structured fun. But this is being challenged up here. Pluto's challenging your thinking about yourself. And this Arian energy is in your 8th house. Okay, so this is significant partnerships where you share energy. This is your deeply bonded relationships, people that you share energy with. This is also another way to how How do I not think about just myself in this area? You go to your Libran energy, the opposing side. And so when I look at that, it's not just, just not about our shared resources or my partner's resources, but me. What do I value? It'd be the second house. Yeah, that matches this chart exactly, because we're talking about Virgo Ascendant, and that just happens to be the chart because of the time I'm looking at. Now, if I were to go to look at a Libra Ascendant, Libra rising, and we're to try to better understand their Plutonian energy, right, in their Capricorn, we're going to see that that's in their fourth house. Okay, so their structures in their home being challenged, right? They're being challenged in their beliefs. Or I'm sorry, the things about themselves. This is their seventh house. And so their seventh house, this is how you relate to others. Now, let's not forget about the seventh house. It is one-on-one relationships, but the seventh house is also like the public stage. It's also how you relate to others, how you relate to the public. All right, so if you have a job where you are relating with lots of folks, even if it's just one-on-one at a time, there's a new way of thinking about it. You're being asked to think it through a little bit longer, a little bit further, to think about it some more, how you can do that. Because Pluto is saying, hey, you have this very assertive, right? Because it's the Aryan energy. It's, I want to be first. I want to be in front. But at the same time, Mercury is there, and it's being challenged by Pluto. Okay, that's in your seventh house. So again, this would be in your significant one-on-one relationships, but also how you relate to the world. Okay, if you have a job that you do counseling in any way, okay, this is that placement. Like if someone's a lawyer, if someone's a doctor, if someone's an astrologer, right? This would be that. You consult somebody, okay? You need their help. You need their professional services. This is all that's located right here in the seventh house. So whether you're the one doing it or you're reaching out to somebody and you're paying them to do that for you, it's just energy. You either emit that energy or the energy comes to you, because it's, remember, it's a boomerang. Pluto's asking you to think a little bit longer, okay? Think a little bit longer about yourself and how you're relating in that way with people. There might be more solutions, more things you haven't thought of. Now, Pluto's going to be doing this retrograde. It stays retrograde all summer, folks. It goes all the way back to 22 degrees. Pluto's actually up here. If you see the little blue marks, I know it's a little hard to see, but Pluto will actually still be in the third decan of Capricorn energy. Jupiter will step out. Jupiter will actually go back to like 18, 17 or something. I'd have to look on the ephemeris, but we'll still have Pluto operating in the master degrees, right? That third decan is considered like these mastery degrees where you are operating at the highest level of a sign. So you are, Pluto energy at the highest is very altruistic. It's thinking about the group. So again, right? Group. Fascinating, isn't it? Not just about self, not taking shortcuts because we're in Capricorn, and doing what's best for the group. And finding out that even though we feel uncomfortable, because that's what a square represents, it is uncomfortable. But sometimes we have to go there. And then when we get there, we discover gifts. We discover little things that we had no clue were there because we'd never been there. That's how it works, right? And so we tend to not go there because we have this uncomfortable friction and testing. And so we just brush it off. But we don't realize that we kind of miss out because we didn't embrace it. And I know it's hard. I know. I'm not saying it to make it sound like it's easy. Now, if we go to the next sign, if we go to the Scorpio people, for all you Scorpios out there, your Capricorn energy, where your Pluto is bearing down, is in your third house of thinking and communication. Again, Pluto's going to stay here in that third decan, but I want you to pay attention for you Scorpio Ascendant, Scorpio risings. Pay attention to 22, 23, 24, 25 degrees. Pluto was already here. Pluto already went over this area, and you're going to be revisiting some of the same challenges. You want to think back in the last 6 months. What was going on in your life? What were some things that you had to face? Because again, if you had faced something big, it was because you had cardinal planets in the later degrees of Aries or Libra. You see, when I draw it out here, I'm glad you don't have to look at the damn lighter, right? You see there would be an opposition, and then there would be that square. This was that wonderful T-square I always talk about, okay? And as I'm drawing this T-square, okay, not really drawing it, but I'm kind of outlining it with this beautiful eraser. The way out of any T-square, not that there's like this, oh great, I've got the answer, it's the solution. A lot of people call them remedies. especially in Vedic astrology. They like to think that they have these tips and tricks for you like that nobody else has. And I'm not trying to downplay them, but I'm going to just explain it logically, which is it's simply going to the exact opposite and creating a great square. You see? T square. But then if you go to the exact opposite of the 24, 23, 22 or whatever of Capricorn, you go to the opposite, which would be emphasized on the 23, 24, 25 degrees of Cancer energy in your chart. So for Scorpio Ascendant, Scorpio risings, I'm saying this because I do know some Scorpios who have faced some major trials, okay, in the last 6 months. And it was during when Pluto was here. And so as Pluto backs up, you're going to be facing those, something similar to those, right? And what does it do? It goes to family, right? It goes to mother issues. It goes to emotional satisfaction, okay? It goes to my emotional stability, my emotional safety and comfort. It's Cancer. It's very sensitive. And so for Scorpios, this goes, if we look where Cancer is, this goes, it comes down to your beliefs and your opinions, okay? So you're being asked to reevaluate your thoughts about family, about being a mom, about your mom, okay? Female issues, women, because this is Cancer, this is the moon. So it's feminine energy, okay? It's going to challenge this again, all right? So you have the heads up. Hopefully I'll have this uploaded. That's why I wanted to do these videos, to put all the signs in the one video. If you have any questions, comment below. I can go in more detail for you about this. We can go to the next sign. It's going to be a Sagittarius ascendant, right? And for Sag risings, your Capricorn energy, where your Pluto is bearing down, is going to be in your second house. Your second house is your income, your money. Again, if you have anything in these cardinal degrees, right, the later degrees of Aries or Libra, that brings up a square again. And you will know because you already experienced it before. If you didn't experience, and if you don't know, that means it didn't happen. That means you don't have anything. That's what that means. But pay attention to, there are other things that could occur, right? It doesn't mean like nothing will happen because we have transiting planets moving. And so even though this sets up a similar scenario, it is not an identical scenario because we have to pay attention to all the transiting items. At this time, which I didn't mention yet, is the nodes. If you look, right, you see that the node is at 0 degrees Cancer, a world axis point. And yeah, I made sure to put the galactic center on here so you guys could see that. A few degrees away is the galactic center at 27 degrees in Sag. This isn't going to be a video about what happens when the south node hits that, but it will be noticeable. And this is going to be very tight when it comes to June. We're going to have our June eclipses, June and July. You know, that's the eclipse season. And I gave a heads up in some of the new moon videos about that already, but we'll go in deeper in later videos. The north node represents where you're headed. Okay, so when you see that, and you see that it's in the sign of Cancer, right, it makes you wonder, okay, on a private scale, family, but on a large, grand scale, this is the public, this is the world, this is humanity. Very shortly after this, you see, it'll be moving into Gemini. And this is going to change the way we do business, right? We all know business has changed because of, well, we're in lockdown, we're in quarantine season, right? And Venus is going to spend, geez, all the way until August, Venus is going to be sitting here in Gemini energy. Venus is our income, our resources, what we value. Gemini is marketing. Gemini is sales. Gemini is trade. Gemini is business. Gemini is traveling, but short distances. Okay? Gemini is our neighbors, is our siblings. It's our neighborhood. It's our immediate community, right? Buy small, mom and pop businesses. Put your money there. You got stimulus money. If you're going to spend any of it at all at any time, right? Try to help your community businesses. That's kind of what this is, an emphasis on that. But I also, because we have Venus here for so long, I could totally see, you know, a lot of folks within a community coming up with ideas because Gemini rules the hands and the arms. Gemini rules the fingers. Very crafty. Being busy with the hands, not just with the mouth. I could very easily see folks not just making face masks, but creating other things, right? This is the crafter's sign, right? Embracing things that other people have created during the lockdown, during the quarantine. You know, maybe finding values in those things, which I would love, love, love to see. Too many artists never receive the blood, sweat, and tears, the amount of time they put into something. Okay, so for Sag Ascendant, the square goes over to your Arian energy, your Mercury energy, okay? So this is after the new moon. I did ask people to focus their new moon, make your intentions on the 24th, and this was part of the reason Pluto will be will kind of be forcing, will be challenging Mercury to think deeper about self. And what do I need for myself? And this is why I really want you guys to wait to the 24th before you do your new moon intentions, okay? Because you will have the ability to think deeper, all right? You will be thinking deeper in terms of self and what I need, okay? What I need for my future, what I need for the long term. Because this whole time, all 2019, 2020, really is an emphasis on having faith, you know, believing in there is a long-term goal, even though you don't know what it is, even though you can't see what the next correct step is. These steps, it's as though if you have faith and you take one step at a time, once you take the one step, the next step appears in front of you, but only the next step. You don't get to see the next 10 steps. You only get to see the next one step. I know that's crazy, but that's what it is. That's what it is. This is Neptune at 20 degrees, operating in the last decan. Neptune is faith, is belief. Now, we're seeing a lot of people doing this, right? And they're not incorporating their God-given gifts of thinking, right? They're being very spontaneous, very impulsive. You want to be the fine Aryan wine, okay? Which is you've incorporated layers of thinking and logic and rationale and intellect and science, people. All right, science. I can't scream this enough and I won't spend any more time with it. So for Sag Ascendants, your Aryan energy, where your Mercury is, where it's going to be challenged. This is in your 5th house. So this is with children, right? This is your romance. This is your creativity. This is your joy, all right? So you might be coming up with more ways to be creative. You might be challenged to find what other ways can you find happiness and joy. This is really big. This is huge. Because for all of us, every sign, I don't care who you are, find your 5th house. Find out what sign you have there, okay? Start a new creative project. With Aries in your 5th house, you're always starting creative projects, okay? Your 5th house is how you have a good time. It's your joy. During lockdown and quarantines, you need to be really connected to joy. You really need to know what that is that gives you joy, and you need to make sure that you chisel that time in every single day. And if you need it 50 times a day, then damn, chisel it in 50 times a day. If you seem like you're starting all these new projects, but you don't finish anything, you know what? Just focus on what gives you joy for right now, okay? Mercury's going to move into the Taurus energy soon. And that's when she takes all the creative projects and says, okay, now I'm going to go to the next phase of all the things I began, and I'm going to work on the next stages of those. Instead of creating more of them, I'm going to go to stage 2 of the things I created. That's how I do it. That's how I do it, because I have an interesting chart with a lot of Aryan energy and a buttload of that energy and Taurus energy. So I just kind of use it that way. If I go to the Capricorn energy, Capricorn Ascendant, oh, that's you, Capricorn, right? You know where this is. This is in your 1st house. Again, if you're not sure, you might have some of that later degrees of Capricorn in your 2nd house, or it could even be in your 12th house. Comment your birth digits below and I can clarify that for you. But we want to find out where your Aryan energy is and what's being squared, how your thinking is being challenged. Typically, your Aryan energy is at home. It's in your 4th house. Okay? This is your emotional world, your stability. Okay? This is your home life. This is family. All right? So there's some Pluto is saying, you know, I want you to keep thinking. Rethink this. Okay? Think a little bit more. Don't just spout off, because that's what Mercury wants to do. It says, I got this great idea, and it runs out the gate with it. Nope. Pluto is saying, I want you to think more, think a little bit deeper. But there's things about yourself. This isn't about pointing a finger at other people. This is about things about you. This is for all the signs. This really is about ourself. What it is about ourself that we didn't see before. There should be some ahas. And some of the ahas doesn't mean, oh my God, I all of a sudden, there's this great, unbelievable gift I have. It can be that. But it can also be there's this thing that was holding you back about yourself. A personality trait, something you thought, the way you know, it has everything to do with where this is located in your chart. So Capricorn, you're going to be really thinking about yourself in your home, what it is about yourself in your home, okay? Very fiery, very I need to be doing, I need to be very physical in my home. That's what that would mean, having Aries energy there. So there might be something you haven't thought of, other ways that you can be physical and busy in your home. Okay, Arian energy is also, again, it's about thinking, but developing layered thinking, and not just about self. It's, am I very selfish in my home? Do I incorporate other people? Am I fair? Do I go to the opposite of my Arian energy, incorporate my Libran energy? Which is, do I take others' thoughts into consideration at home? So you're not pointing fingers at other people. When Pluto squares Mercury in Aries, we're pointing at the fingers at ourselves, okay? This is a time when we really are saying, okay, it's me time, and I have to figure out what it is Pluto's asking me to reevaluate about myself in terms of thinking about myself. So Aquarian energy, we're going to take a look. You've got your Capricorn over here, and that is going to be all in your 12th house. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a mystery because it's the 12th house. Again, dreams, right? This is the house of dreams. If you're getting information in your dreams, if you're sincere, you're going to start keeping your spiritual dream journal. You know, doesn't mean it has to be a book. Doesn't mean you have to write a lot, but you're going to have dates, and you can have, you know, keywords. If you're not good at that, you can even do it verbally. I don't know. You figure it out. Whatever works best for you. But if you're really sincere about making changes, okay, I don't know. Let me know. Tell me. What are you guys doing? How do you log stuff? How do you track stuff? How do you journalize? How do you keep track of things? You have to be scientific. That's what astrology is. You know, it's tracking and being able to be observant. And the only way to be an observer is you have to constantly somehow be in a frame of mind where you can think from multiple perspectives about something and be objective. If you don't have objectivity involved, you can't be clear. So Pluto in your 12th house, okay, challenging your thinking about self. And this is going to be for Aries or Aquarius ascendant. This is your 3rd house. Arian energy is in your 3rd house, so it's thoughts about self. But how you talk, how you communicate, this is important. 3rd house, if you have Arian energy there, yeah, God, if you have planets there, that means your mouth is going all the time, right? It means you're always trying to start new communications. You always, like, friends are going to be a big deal, and talking with tons of people. And maybe not even friends, just people that you find that you can just sit there and keep talking to. Right? Do you use people that way? You just constantly talk to them because you need to constantly satisfy this urge to constantly be communicating and thinking and talking about what you're thinking. If you have planets there, that's what's going on. If you don't, then, you know, you're a fiery communicator, which could be wonderful. It's a very inspirational speaker, would be Aries energy in the 3rd house. You know, if it's beautifully aspect, like trined, yeah, you can be a great motivational public speaker. Again, you can comment your birth digits below if you're not sure about how this all plays out. But thoughts about how you speak, thoughts how you communicate, right? This is what you're being asked to take a look at. Does it involve, do you consider others, right? That's a big deal. Balance, right? It's balance. Because Arian energy is definitely not balanced, right? It's me, 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 me. Very fiery and insists on being first. So it's that challenge to think that through. All right, if I go to the Piscean energy, this is going to bring the Capricorn stuff into your 11th house. Okay, so this is your friends. This is your group energy. All right, however you function in a group, this definitely could be online and internet. So anytime we talk about, you know, 11th house and the 3rd house, this is all internet. So if I talk, you know, Gemini stuff, that's always, you know, that's the same thing, 3rd house. And that Arian energy was just in the 3rd house for the last sign, right? That was definitely how you communicate. You know, salespeople, that's also internet, how you talk, how you communicate on the internet. Pisces rising, this Capricorn energy in your group energy, okay, is being challenged. Pluto is challenging your Mercury in your 2nd house. This is my resources and what I value. This is interesting because this lines up with the new moon. You know, the new moon is all about, it's Venus. It's a Venus new moon. The whole month of April, actually longer than that. Venus is so prominent for the year of 2020 and 2019 too, because we got Juno down there in Libra. That's Venus ruled. The full moon at the beginning of the month was in Libra. Venus ruled. The new moon's in Taurus. Venus ruled. Your Mercury is in your 2nd house, and the 2nd house is ruled by Venus. Okay. Now I realize Mars, right, is part of this because you have it in your Aries energies in your 2nd. But at the same time, it comes down to what you value. You're thinking about what you value yourself. Okay. But how you operate fairly, okay? You go to the other side to understand it better, which is your Libran energy, and that takes you to your 8th house. So it's your resources, your income, your shared resources, your shared energy, your shared income. I hope this wasn't too confusing, calling, you know, second house, eighth house, but I kind of think this actually helps. It's a good visual while you guys are hearing about your houses and your ascendant signs. So Pluto, when we understand Pluto and what it's challenging, and understanding that Pluto is going to be sitting in that area of all your houses that I just went through for all the rising signs. You know, when Pluto goes backwards, it almost feels like things aren't changing in that area fast enough. That's what happens, because it's asking us to rethink things. Anytime any planet goes retrograde, it's a rethinking of something. So this is about our structures in our life, our old structures. Pluto's job is to transform them, to change them, to uproot them. And that's what's happening. So the area that your Capricorn energy is in is where that's occurring, okay? It's changing, and remember, within the next 4 years, Pluto will have permanently transformed that location in your chart. Some of you can have your houses split, okay? So you have more complex charts. I understand that. But it's still going to apply to that house. But for you, if you have other energies in that house, then it's going to be, I feel fairly certain to say that it would be watered down in a way, because it's shared by another energy. Like this example right here, if I'm looking at this house, if this had a different birth time, it would be like half Sagittarian energy and half Capricorn energy, okay? Which means that Pluto would be changing this house, but we can't disregard that half of that house has Sagittarian energy in it, right? So it makes a change, but it doesn't change the entire location, because it doesn't have dominion over the entire house. It's complex, it's layers of energy. That's why when you hear things on the, you know, when you hear the general readings, it's like, wow, that doesn't really make sense for me. Well, there's a reason. Your birth time is very relevant. Nobody can sit here and give you like a general reading and say, hey, this is totally for you. No, you want to pay attention to the degrees. And this hopefully helps you to understand better, gives you a visual as to why the degrees are so important. I hope this has put some light upon your path. If you got any questions, go ahead and leave a comment below, and have a happy new moon. Bye.